Entering the second week of April, Trump leads Biden by 0.8%, according to the latest average from Decision Desk HQ/The Hill, and just 0.3% according to Real Clear polling. Those are the narrowest leads that the former president has enjoyed in either of these trackers since January. But how is this trend translated to the key battleground states? In order to be elected president of the United States, a candidate must secure at least 270 electoral votes in the Electoral College. In today's video, we are going to create a 2024 presidential election map based on the most recent poll in all 50 U.S. states. We're setting aside third-party impacts for now and focusing only on the polls assessing the two-way race between Biden and Trump, aiming for a more straightforward and lighthearted analysis compared to my other more complex data analysis videos. Before I get started, if you are new here, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel down below and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. Hope you enjoy today's video. Alrighty, without further ado, let's get started. Keeping in mind our rating classifications, tilt states, the lightest color of red or blue, are within 0 to 3% margins. Lean states, 3 to 8%. Likely states, 8 to 12%. And safe states have a margin greater than 12%. Unlike in my other videos, I will not be discussing the reputation, previous bias, or any details whatsoever about the pollsters featured in this video. The only consideration is that it is the most recent poll conducted in that state. Starting in the Pacific Northwest, Washington shows strong support for Biden with a public policy polling survey from February 13th through 14th, showing Biden leading Trump by 16 points. Hardly surprising, as Washington backed Biden by 19 in 2020 and has not voted for a Republican presidential candidate since 1984. This places Washington in the safe Democrat column. The state of Oregon will follow suit with a poll conducted by Emerson College from October of 2023, showing Biden ahead by 15%, also making it safe Democrat. Oregon and Washington have both backed Democrats in 9 straight elections. Moving down to the state of California, again, no surprise here, Democrats are on an 8 election win streak here, which should extend to 9 this November, as the latest poll from UC Berkeley, surveyed between February 22nd through 27th of this year, shows Biden with a commanding plus 18 advantage, reinforcing California's status as a safe Democratic stronghold, although this is a significantly smaller margin than Biden's 29-point win in 2020. Now heading out of the contiguous lower 48 states over to Alaska for a brief second, Trump leads by 12 points according to a Data for Progress poll from late February going into March. And that places the last frontier state just barely in the safe Republican column. Keep in mind that while Alaska has voted Republican in all but one election since becoming a state in 1959, Trump's 10-point margin of victory in 2020 was the closest for the party since 1992. And then in Hawaii, unfortunately, we do not yet have a poll surveying the 2024 race between Biden and Trump here in the Aloha states, but it is one of the strongest Democratic states in the country, at Biden plus 29 in 2020, just like in California, and like Washington and Oregon, it last voted Republican in 1984, so we will mark it down as solid blue. And back to the contiguous 48 now, Idaho stands in stark contrast to Hawaii in more ways than one. An Emerson College poll from October of last year shows Trump with a staggering 29-point lead, making it safe Republican. This trend continues in the state of Montana, where a Survey USA poll from February shows Trump ahead by 22%. And in Wyoming, also with an Emerson College poll from October 2023, showing Trump ahead by 53 points, both solidifying their positions as safe Republican states. Wyoming was Trump's best state in the 2020 election at R plus 43. Down in Utah now, the latest poll from FAU in consultation with Main Street Research, surveyed between February 29th and March 3rd, showed Trump with a 9-point lead, much smaller than you would expect given that Trump won Utah by more than 20 points in 2020, but it's not the only poll showing a closer than expected race here. The previously most recent survey from Deseret News and Dan Jones and Associates had Trump's lead at 10 points. Both are likely Republican margins. Over in Nevada now, our first true battleground state on this map so far, the latest poll taken here is from Bloomberg News and Morning Consult, surveyed between March 8th through 15th, and this poll was only just released a week ago, and it has Trump leading Biden by 2 points among the sample's 447 registered voters. That is narrower than in most polls that we've seen in Nevada so far this cycle, but the polling average here has seen a consistent trend towards becoming less favorable for Trump overall. Though the fact that he is still leading in Nevada is already significant, as it has been a blue state in 4 straight elections now, and Biden won it by 2.5 points in 2020, a wider margin than in 4 other battlegrounds. It has become, though, a major GOP target in recent years after Biden failed to improve on Clinton's margin, despite the national environment shifting in his favor, and the fact that Republicans managed to flip the governor's office in 2022. Nevada will tilt Republican, though, as of this latest update. Just to the southeast, in Arizona, another battleground, the second closest state in 2020 actually, behind Georgia, Biden won it by a margin of just 0.3%. Again, we come across this grouping of Bloomberg News / Morning Consult battleground polls. This one has Trump with a stronger lead over Biden, 5 points, among 786 registered voters in the Grand Canyon state. That margin places it in lean Republican territory. Remember, tilt states are between 0 to 3 points, while lean states 3 to 8 points. As for Colorado, it saw the strongest pro-Democrat shift of any state relative to the nation between 2016 and 2020. It went from Clinton +5 to Biden +13.5. The latest poll here is from late January by Global Strategy Group, with Biden leading by 8 points among 801 registered voters. That is just enough to assign Colorado a likely Democrat rating. And then down in New Mexico, there has not been a poll taken here since last August. That one from Public Policy Polling also shows Biden in front by 8 points. That means New Mexico joins Colorado as a likely blue state. Interestingly, after both of these states voted for George W. Bush in 2004, they have now backed Democrats in the last 4 elections since then. So that completes the western side of the map. Biden is out in front early with 93 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 37. No surprises have come here yet, though, as Biden's initial lead here is driven primarily by the highly populated Pacific Coast Democratic strongholds, mainly California, with Trump about to pick up a whole bunch of states down here in the Great Plains region, starting in North Dakota. An Emerson College poll from October of last year shows him leading by 37 points, with Biden getting beat out by other, down at just 17% support. Down in South Dakota, a more recent poll from January, also from Emerson College, has Trump leading by 29 points. Then in Nebraska, again, an Emerson College poll from early October finds Trump leading by 16 points. Now that may seem abnormally low at face value, but there have been signs of eroding Republican support here in the Cornhusker state. Trump's 19-point win in 2020 was down 6 points from 2016 and marked the second narrowest margin for a GOP candidate here since 1968. Nebraska is also one of 2 states, the other being Maine, to allocate its electoral votes by congressional district. A candidate receives 1 electoral vote for each district won, while the statewide winner receives an additional 2 electoral votes. We don't yet have any polls broken down by congressional district, so the 1st and 3rd districts will be safe Republican in accordance with their 2020 margins, while the 2nd district actually leans towards Biden. He won it by 6.6% in that election, the best Democratic performance since Nebraska first adopted its system of allocation by district. Moving along a little faster now, Kansas and Oklahoma follow this region's suit as safe Republican states. Another Emerson College poll from early October displays a 16-point Trump lead in Kansas, and then Trump plus 28 among 447 registered Oklahomians. Turning to the more competitive state, though, of Texas, an emerging battleground with the 2nd largest total number of electoral votes on the map, the latest survey conducted by Marist College between March 18th and 21st shows Trump leading by 11 points, with Trump at 55% and Biden at 44%. That is a significantly larger margin favoring Trump than most other surveys we have seen here in Texas, and much higher than his 5.6% margin of victory in 2020, which was the narrowest for a GOP presidential candidate here since 1976. The Lone Star State will fall in the likely Republican margin range, though, joining Utah and capping off a streak of 6 straight Trump victories that launches him all the way up to 100 electoral votes exactly. He now leads Biden by 6 in the race to 270. And speaking of streaks, before we head over to the critical Midwest region, let's take a quick break to talk about streamlining communication in your business. If you own a business that relies on effective communication with clients through phone calls or text messaging to close deals, you know how crucial it is to have a seamless system in place. But what if I told you that you could automate up to 90% of your interactions and eliminate 30% or more of your costs? Yes, it's possible, even if you're currently running your business off your personal phone. My sponsor for today's video, Nextiva, is offering my viewers 50% off their AI-driven platform that gives you seamless, personalized customer interactions across all channels. With Nextiva, you can create new phone numbers, enjoy unlimited calling and texting, and even set up an auto attendant, all from just one app on your own phone or computer. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, lower your costs, and harness the power of AI, head over to trynextiva.com/election or click the link in the description down below to get 50% off your plan. Don't let poor communication hold you back like an unsuccessful presidential campaign. Moving all the way over to the Midwest, up here in Minnesota now, a Survey USA poll from February 23rd through 28th showed Biden leading Trump by 4 points among 1,600 likely voters. That is just about half of Biden's 2020 margin in Minnesota, but it still makes the state lean towards Biden. This would extend Minnesota's streak of voting blue to 13 straight elections, which is already the longest active streak still around today. Down in Iowa, polls were initially coming in rapid fire prior to the Republican caucuses in January, but they have mostly tapered off since then, as Iowa is not expected to be closely contested this cycle. Trump won by 9 points in 2016 and 8 points in 2020. The latest poll from Signal in mid-February showed Trump leading by 9% among 600 likely voters, and that translates over to a likely Republican margin. As for the state of Missouri, a battleground as recently as 2008, now a strongly Republican state, Trump leads by 18 points, according to a late January Emerson College poll, as Missouri remains a safe Republican state. In Illinois, no polls here in a while, probably because it has not voted for a Republican presidential candidate since 1988. Going all the way back to early October, once again with an Emerson College poll, it has Biden leading by only 10 points though. That's a likely Democrat margin, though just as is the case in Utah, it's highly unlikely to actually be competitive this cycle. Democratic presidential candidates have carried Illinois by more than 15 percentage points in 4 straight elections. In the Rust Belt, Wisconsin, our third of the 6 key battleground states in the 2024 cycle, after Nevada and Arizona, that will in all likelihood decide this election. Biden carried Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes by just 0.6% in 2020, marking the 4th time in the last 6 presidential elections that Wisconsin was decided by less than a point. The only 2 exceptions were 2008 and 2012, so actually each of the last 4 Wisconsin presidential races that did not feature Barack Obama on the ballot were decided by less than 1%. The latest survey here from that same grouping of Bloomberg News and Morning Consult polls that we saw in Nevada and Arizona has Biden leading Trump by a point, with 46% to the former president's 45%, among 697 registered voters. This would be a crucial hold for the incumbent, especially if Trump does manage to flip Nevada and Arizona. With a win in Wisconsin, Biden would only need to win 2 more of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and/or Georgia, rather than having to sweep all 3. Shifting gears, though, down to Indiana, similar story to Iowa and its neighbor to the west, Ohio for that matter, which we'll get to in a second here. It has become a reliably Republican state over the last 2 election cycles after voting for Barack Obama in 2008. The latest poll in Indiana from the first week of March had Trump's lead at 21 points among 1,000 registered voters per Emerson College. That is a safe Republican margin. And then down in Kentucky, Trump plus 26 in 2020. Again, an Emerson College poll, this one from last year, conducted between October 1st through 4th, had him leading by 29 points. So Kentucky joins Indiana as a safe red state. No surprises here. Continuing this trend over in West Virginia, this was Trump's best state in 2016 and second best in 2020. Again, that same group of surveys from last October has the former president leading, but by an even more substantial margin here in West Virginia, 36 points among 539 adults. And to finish up the Great Lakes region, Midwest, Rust Belt, whatever you want to call it, we have three of the largest traditional presidential battlegrounds in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Starting in Ohio, the latest poll comes from Main Street Research, conducted on March 13th, and it shows Trump leading Biden by 11 points, 50% to 39%, among 753 likely voters. Ohio is therefore, unsurprisingly, categorized as likely Republican, just as it was in the final margins in both 2016 and 2020. And then, as you would expect in Michigan, a much more favorable state for Biden and the Democratic Party over the last decade, the latest poll here from Bloomberg News and Morning Consult actually shows a dead heat tied race with Biden and Trump pulling in 45% of the vote each. 11% of the 698 registered voters in this survey said that they were either undecided or would vote for someone else. Michigan would no doubt be a substantial lift for Trump, given that Biden won it by 3 points in 2020, and Democrats have exceeded expectations in several down-ballot races over the last few years as well. The same can be said for Pennsylvania. If Biden is reelected to a second term, he will almost certainly need to hold both Pennsylvania and Michigan. While there are certainly still paths for him to win without these two states, they are far less favorable, especially considering Biden's perceived strength as a candidate is supposed to be concentrated in this region. Once again, though, the latest poll from Bloomberg News / Morning Consult has the two candidates tied, drawing 45% each in this one, with this survey having polled 807 registered voters in Pennsylvania. That means that both Michigan and Pennsylvania go into the toss-up category on your screen right here, leaving their 34 electoral votes up for grabs in the race to 270 on this polling-based map. And so, with just the Northeast and South remaining now, Trump holds a narrow lead over Biden at 156 electoral votes to the incumbent Democrats' 133. 215 electoral votes remain not yet rated as we head to the Northeast region, where Biden will get a significant boost. Maryland is solid Democrat. The most recent poll here from Emerson College, again, but more recently surveyed between February 12th and 13th of this year, shows Biden leading by 23 points. Maryland was Biden's third best state in 2020. Unfortunately, over in Delaware, though, we don't have any polls yet of Biden's home state for the 2024 race, or in New Jersey for that matter, but Biden did win both of these states by more than 15 points in 2020, and they have gone Democratic in every election since 1988, so they will be solid D on this map. The same thing can be said up in the New England states of Vermont, Connecticut, and Rhode Island as well, actually. No polls yet, but Vermont was the bluest state in the nation in 2020 at Biden plus 35, while Connecticut was Biden plus 20, and Rhode Island Biden plus 21. Also in Washington, D.C., or the District of Columbia, no polls here, but Biden received 92% of the votes within the district in 2020, so it'll obviously be safe blue on this electoral map. As for the Empire States, of course, we have polling data here. It may not be a competitive state, but it obviously draws enough interest. The most recent poll surveyed between February 12th to 14th in New York shows Biden leading by 12 points among 806 registered voters, according to Siena College. So New York goes down as just barely safe Democrat. Over in Massachusetts, it'll join New York, as the latest poll from FAU Research has Biden leading by 25 points, among just 327 likely voters included in the survey. That's obviously a very small sample size, but Massachusetts was Biden's second strongest state in 2020. As for the state of New Hampshire, consistently the most competitive state in New England over the last few election cycles, the latest survey here conducted by Marist College in mid-January shows Biden leading Trump by 7 points. The That's the same margin that the Democrat won the state with in 2020, and New Hampshire receives a lean Democrat rating. Up in Maine, Biden won by 9 points in 2020, and the latest poll from FAU/Main Street Research has him leading by 16 points, though this poll surveyed just 65 registered voters, so take it with a grain of salt. That does mean, though, that Maine's 2 electoral votes that it awards to the winner of its statewide contest goes safe Democrat. As for its 1st and 2nd districts, I couldn't find any polls assessing the Biden versus Trump contest broken down to this level, so we'll mark the 1st district as safe Democrat since it backed Biden by 23 points in 2020, while the 2nd district goes likely Republican after voting for Trump by 7 points in that election. That leaves us with just the South now. Biden takes the lead in the race to 270 with 223 electoral votes to Trump's 157. That gap between the two candidates, though, is going to close very rapidly here as the reliably Republican southern states of Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina are all safe Trump states here in 2024. The latest available polls in these states, as you can see on your screen right now, all have Trump leading by a wide margin. 33 points in Arkansas from Emerson, 25 in Alabama by WPA Intelligence, 15 in Louisiana, and 18 in Mississippi, both per Echelon Insights, 31 in Tennessee from Beacon Poll of Tennessee, and 14 in South Carolina in an Emerson College poll from mid-February. Each of these states also backed Trump by double digits in 2020, ranging from 12 points in South Carolina all the way up to 28 points in Arkansas. The Commonwealth of Virginia, on the other hand, used to be part of these traditionally conservative southern states for the latter half of the 1900s. Prior to Barack Obama's breakthrough in 2008, Virginia had not voted for a Democrat since 1964. It has now voted Democrat, though, in 4 straight elections, with Biden winning by double digits in 2020, thanks in large part to demographic changes and population increases in Northern Virginia, primarily the D.C. suburbs. Republicans have also lost 6 straight U.S. Senate races here since 2002. The latest poll, though, assessing the presidential race here comes from Roanoke College, surveyed between February 11th to the 19th. It has Biden leading Trump by just 4 points, with 47% to 43%, making Virginia lean Democrat on the map. That leaves just 3 states, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, all considered to be relatively competitive states in today's environment, although to varying degrees. North Carolina has been a perennially purple state for almost 2 decades now, while Republicans have won each of the last 3 presidential races in the Tar Heel State and 4 straight Senate races as well. Each of those contests were decided by less than 5 percentage points. Democratic candidates had also led in the polls in most of those races, actually, before underperforming in the final results. That'll definitely be something to keep in mind if Biden does end up taking the lead at some point over the coming months, though that's a big if, as Trump has generally been polling very well in North Carolina thus far. The latest poll from Marist College, surveyed between March 11th to the 14th, has his advantage at 3 points in a 2-way contest, with 51% to Biden's 48%. It should be noted, though, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just qualified for the ballot in North Carolina, and this same Marist College survey also asked respondents how they would vote, with RFK Jr. included. Trump's advantage does remain the same at 3 points, but as the independent pulls in 11 points, the 2 major party candidates drop to 46% and 43%, respectively. Either way, North Carolina is a lean Trump state here. As for the state of Georgia, which is generally expected to be closer here in 2024 than North Carolina, after Biden won by just 0.2% of the vote in 2020, it was the closest state in that election in terms of margin, and that same Marist College poll that we saw in North Carolina has Trump's lead at 4 points here in Georgia. 51% to 47% is the split, which is slightly wider for the former president, but nevertheless, Georgia still joins North Carolina in the lean Republican column. And now, finally, Florida. We have seen a couple of new polls here in recent weeks, after previously not having seen a poll in the Sunshine State since last December, the most recent of which by St. Pete Polls for WMNF Radio in Tampa finds Trump leading Biden by 6 points, with 48% to 42% among nearly 2,000 likely voters between March 11th through 13th. That's a significantly smaller margin than Trump's double-digit lead in the DDHQ polling average, but still a strong lead by Florida standards nevertheless. The former president carried Florida in 2020 by 3.4 points, a notable improvement on his 2016 margin and the largest for any presidential election winner in Florida since 2004. And following the re-elections of Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Marco Rubio in 2022 by 19 and 16 points, respectively, it does appear inevitable that Trump will further increase his margin in 2024. The only remaining question is by just how much. Can he reach double digits? Time will tell. Anyways, with Florida also going in the lean Republican column, that completes this 2024 presidential election map based on the most recent poll taken in every state. Donald Trump leads Joe Biden with 268 electoral votes to 236. The Republican is just 2 votes shy of the magic number, 270, needed to secure the presidency. 34 electoral votes from Michigan and Pennsylvania are labeled as toss-ups due to the latest poll showing a tied race in both states. If Trump were to flip both of these states, he would win with 302 electoral votes and become just the second president to serve a non-consecutive term in the White House. Conversely, if Biden won both of these states, he would secure the narrowest electoral college victory in American history, with exactly 270 electoral votes to Trump's 268. And finally, if these two states were to split either way, Trump would win the presidency with 287 electoral votes with a win in Pennsylvania, but not Michigan. Or if he were to win Michigan, but not Pennsylvania, he would win with 283 electoral votes. For now, while Trump remains in a more favorable position than Biden, the race to 270 electoral votes is a toss-up. That does it for today's video though. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this map and the points made in this video. I appreciate all positive or negative comments. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel down below, and please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.